Hello, my name's Owen and welcome to the JOL Wedding Podcast. Join myself and my co-host Caroline as we bring you all the inspiration and advice you need whilst planning your wedding. Hello everybody, welcome to the JOL Wedding Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about venue dressing, aren't we? And
floral design,
which is why we've got our perfect guest for it, TMS Events. Tammy, how are you?
How are you? Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to catch up again because obviously we do so many weddings together.
Yeah, we do.
It's nice to have you here and chatting. And
thank you for having me in your lovely home.
You're very
With
welcome.
the dogs.
With the dog.
With the dog.
With the dog.
No, Henry's getting his hair cut today, so he's not.
He's being pampered.
He won't be
The
featured,
-1.
but you still got Dennis.
Oh,
Just chilled.
Just chilled. Yeah, we work quite a lot together, but we don't actually see each other a lot.
yeah, we don't really,
on the
do
wedding
we? Other
day.
than no, because I'm usually busy setting up, and you're
We're
Bride
with
the
the bride,
bride and
with the
groom prep, so we only ever see each other at
On a
wedding
car park.
fairs or at the
Or a
car
car
park,
park.
yeah.
Car park, yeah.
Or at lunchtime quickly maybe.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
it. So how's this year looking for you?
This year's really busy. It's hard to gauge this year because obviously we've had like a mammoth 2 years because
We
of
have.
COVID. So we've been rolling all those rollovers and change of dates. So this year's very busy, and it's hard not to gauge that against the
Yeah.
last previous 2 years.
Yeah.
So we're still really, really busy.
Yeah.
And it's looking good. And we're still receiving a high volume of inquiries and bookings for this year.
So we're March now.
Yeah, and we're still having, I
So-
had one yesterday, a lady wanted a dance floor in June, so we're still getting
Yeah.
people who are asking. Maybe people have been worried because of the cost of living, whether they've got money in their budget for extra finishing touches.
Yeah.
So I think every year trends change, and some years you do find that you get more on in that actual year
Yeah.
than perhaps previous bookings. I know if you look at, say, 2024, I'm super, super busy. And I think that'll be one of those years where,
It's a peak.
it's a really peak year.
I always actually find that even dates are busier than odd.
Yeah, you're probably right there.
So 24, even for us now, we're literally over half books now
Yeah.
for 2024, and we're March.
Yeah, was it
Yeah, it's
2003
crazy.
or something like that? That was a real dip year. I can't remember because of the date. There
Yeah.
was something
Yeah.
one year there was like that. So,
Obviously,
yeah.
obviously in hindsight before COVID, 2020 was
Yes,
a really
the-
big
the
year.
yeah.
But I always find that or even dates.
Yeah, you're probably right there. It's a bit of a trend. Yeah.
Yeah. But you've also had some amazing awards. You've just won some amazing awards recently.
Yes, so we only enter one award each year
Mhm.
because there's lots of different industry awards.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
but
so many.
There's loads, isn't there? But I think it's a lot of pressure to put your business under to enter them all and to attend every event. So we just enter what's called the Welsh National Wedding Awards
Yeah.
each year because we are in Wales, although
Yeah.
we cover the whole of Shropshire. So we enter that each year, and I really like that Wedding Awards because they do mystery shop you. They do go by bride's feedback. They do look at your socials. And there's certain categories, and I feel like it's a really good wedding award.
You're really
to
properly
enter.
judged.
Yeah,
You're
you
properly
are.
judged.
It's not one of these that if you attend on the night, you're gonna come back with a sticker or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and I've entered that wedding awards for quite a few years. So, this year we went down to Swansea.
Wow.
I think
Over to
that's right.
Swansea.
I think that's right. And it's quite nice because we make it like our staff Christmas party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's they have great entertainment and massive props on stage, and it is a really nice night. The room's filled with 500 people.
Wow.
So yeah, we went this year and we won for our area best venue dresser and best florist. And then over the weekend they've just literally emailed us again asking if we want to enter for next year's wedding awards. So
Well, you've got a reputation to hold up now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You've won them
No
year
pressure.
on year though. You've won so many.
I
haven't
have,
you?
and it's quite
You always
nice
do
because
really
it's
well.
nice at the end of it's always in November. It's coming to the end of the season.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be recognised. Plus, also, it's a good way of your customers being able to vote for you, and it's nice for them seeing us win.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
many people will message us after and say, "Oh, it's lovely to see that you've won, Tammy," or
It's
you know,
recognition for
industry.
your hard
Yeah,
work
it
because
is, and it's nice to have that at the end of a long,
Yeah.
hard summer.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you work extremely long hours.
Yeah.
You work extremely hard.
Drink
You and
too
your
much
team.
workaholic.
You honestly work. Oh, you just
Yeah,
constantly on the
it's
go. 'Cause
constant.
a lot of people don't realise, obviously, when the venue dressing, you will have to go and set up very early hours in the morning,
Yeah.
and then you have to then go and pick up
Yeah,
again
it's
very
the
late
pickups.
at night.
Yeah,
That's
people don't miss that.
completely. They don't
Although
know.
you've got your editing process afterwards, which
Yeah.
people forget about, we've then got to go and pick up the next day, and then everything's turned around, so it's cleaned,
Yeah.
it's washed, it's ironed, it's polished, or it's straight back out. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of prep and post prep that's done with
Yeah.
venue dressing. Really, that's always forgot about.
Is there any trends that you're seeing now? Because you do so many different styles of venue dressing as well. So obviously you do your fresh flowers, which are stunning, but also you've got all your candelabras, you've got all your
Yeah, like
silk
props.
flowers and things like that. Is there any trends that you're seeing now that's coming through?
We're still seeing lots of green and white.
It's a classic.
I think I said that to you earlier. It's never going to go out of fashion.
No.
And also with that colour palette, you can add accent colours to it.
Yeah.
So like our higher collection that is artificial, we've got a few different ranges in that. But I tend to keep our higher collections muted and creams and greens because you can add an accent pink in. And I just think it, like you say, it's classic. It's never going to go out of fashion. You're never going to look back at your wedding album and think, oh my God, what did I have that colour for?
Yeah.
And I don't think you would look back and think that anyway, because you've picked that colour palette
you
for
like
it.
that.
But it's kind of timeless, isn't it?
And
So
also when you go to so many different types of venues as well, it will fit into a lot of
it
decors.
does, yeah. I was going to say it'll work at a castle, it'll work at an old hall, and it'll work really well in a barn and a rustic sort of setting. So it is looking, and that's what we always say if couples are coming in. It's looking at where you're getting venue and what colours fit in really, because some colour schemes won't work in certain venues. So. Still loads of green. You get the traditional sort of seasonal colours.
Yeah.
You know, we might get navies, golds and reds at the end of the year. And we might see lots of spring colours this time of year. So creams, yellows and soft pinks. But yeah, there's no sort of set, I think, because we work in so many different venues and we work across a large area. You know, each year they'll say, won't they, this is the colour palette of the year.
They do.
And I always look at that, but I always do take that with a pinch of salt because I think sometimes, whatever they're saying that Pantone colour of the year is, I don't think my couple start looking at that and thinking about that until the next year.
Yes.
Because you're booking a wedding so far in advance.
Yeah.
So
you pick those colour schemes at the time you're starting to plan,
yeah,
really, don't
that's
you?
right.
So obviously you've got your venue, you start thinking then, do I reflect the time of year? So like you say, the golds, the reds, and things like that in the winter.
What's going to work in my venue?
Yeah, so you start thinking about your colour schemes now. Because I remember, you know, years ago, there was, for bouquets, there was a style that they would go like really big, like really long, or really long.
Like shower bouquet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then obviously then they went to things like the pampas grasses.
Yeah,
And
we're still seeing a lot of pampas grass and dried flowers.
Yeah.
And I don't think that will die off, anytime soon. I think.
a lot of people have quite rustic weddings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
and I
with
think
bars
you can work. I think where we are, there's a lot of barn venues around
We have a lot of
here,
barn.
isn't
Shropshire,
there?
yeah, there's
And
definitely a lot
where
of
I am in
barns.
Wales, there's a lot of farms. There's a lot of people who use a cow shed or a pig shed, and we convert it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do see a lot of that. I think there's a big misconception that dried flowers are cheaper than fresh or artificial, and they're not.
No.
A lot of dried and bleached flowers go through bleaching processes. So for us to buy as a wholesaler, they're not cheap.
No.
And sometimes they can be more expensive than a single rose. You know, a piece of pampas is quite expensive. So we've got ranges of that in artificial that you can hire. But yeah, we see a mix of things really, and I think it's area dependent and it's venue dependent. But yeah, lots of greens and whites, lots of dried, lot of rustic styling.
Yeah.
Definitely, and I think that's just because of where we are.
Yeah.
Lots of soft pink still.
Yeah. I love all of those.
It's not
Especially
going out of fashion.
no, I think that is a classic summer, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got your pastels and things like that.
And I think
People
I
love.
spoke to a lady at the weekend. I was at a trade show and she said to me, "Are you still seeing like blossom trees knocking about, Tam? You know, I was going to buy some. Am I too late to the game?" And I said, "No, we still do blossom trees." And I would never discourage anybody. I would never say to anybody, "Oh, I wouldn't have that because it's going out of fashion."
No.
Because couples are planning, like we just said, so far in advance. They're seeing the trends a little bit earlier. So trends in the wedding industry, I think, hang on for a little bit longer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing this year, couples will still be doing next year and the year after, because they're only just seeing it now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm not a massive believer in wedding trends, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm all for couples having what they want.
Yeah.
I'd never say, "Oh, don't have a blossom tree because it's going out of fashion," because they're not.
No.
We still do them every
Yeah.
single week. And in certain venues, they're bob on. They look perfect.
Yeah, they do.
You know, and it's how you style them and what you mix with them.
Yeah.
If you've got a massive room with great big tall ceilings and massive voids of space, they're a perfect cost-effective centerpiece. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm not seeing anything that's like really off
Out
the
there.
scale out
No,
there.
no.
You know, and we always welcome any kind of colour palette or scheme, or
Yeah.
we'll embrace anything that anyone wants to bring to the table, really.
Because it's with fresh flowers, like when we got married 25 years ago, you had two options for your centerpieces. You had balloons if you're on a budget, or fresh flowers.
Or a fresh posy or something like that.
That's it. So now you've got so many different styling things that you can have on your tables and everything like that, which we absolutely love. And I love that every wedding, even though we go to the same venue 2, 3, 4 times, it can look completely different.
Yeah, that's true.
Just by how they've styled it.
Yeah.
And I think you can, some venues, like we went to Hawkston Hall, you can literally just have the bare minimum because the architecture
it's
there,
so beautiful.
it's stunning.
Yeah,
but when
it's
you've
grand,
got
isn't it?
maybe a marquee or something like
Yeah,
that,
it needs a bit more.
you need something there
Yeah.
just to dress it and make it a little bit more
bit different. We always get couples to come in and see us. We don't have a price list that's extensive and that we send out.
No.
I'm not a lover of that. I always say, come in and see us. Come to the showroom, because there are pieces out. There's lots of dummy tables that we can have a fiddle about with. And there's no like one size fits all. So we sit down, we go through their ideas, obviously where they're getting married, perhaps if they've got a colour scheme. And we actually pre-vet this information from them beforehand. So before they've booked a consultation, we check, are they ready to see us?
Okay.
Because it's all very well and good coming to the showroom, but it's not the type of showroom that we want you browsing around and then going home. We like you to have a little look round and to sit down and go through everything with us.
More personal.
Yeah, and I get to know the couples. I get a feel for them, and I always say, when they walk through that door and they've finished, I know if they're going to book us or not, and I'm usually right, because it's important that you gel with the couple.
Completely.
That I get their vision and they get me and they like me. Although we're a business and there's a big team of us, they are ultimately buying into me.
They are.
The same as you guys.
Yeah,
It's a family-run business. It's personal. You know, my kids might pop in and ask for a quid for the shop if it's a Saturday, and I'll say, "Oh, excuse me, it's my son. Let me give him a £1."
Yeah.
But I'm human, and I'm a mum, and it's a family-run business, and it's nice. And if they get that and they like us, then you know, we go from there. But as far as centerpieces and styling, like you say, there's so much choice, isn't there?
Yes,
so
completely.
we get them to come and we go through it. But also, what I always will do is I never, ever, ever ask, "What's your budget?" I know I've got lots of friends in the industry and they will ask that, and they will ask that in their pre-questionnaire. I never ask that because I don't think couples know the answer to that question.
No.
They
No, I
don't know.
completely agree.
No.
Completely
You
agree.
just said to me how much an album costs when you buy an album. I wouldn't have a clue that's what an album costs. I wouldn't have a clue what all your equipment and your insurance costs.
No.
Because you're not planning a wedding every day of the week. 9 times out of 10, the couples aren't working in the industry, so they don't know.
No.
So I always go through from start to finish. I start at the ceremony and I go right the way through to the evening, and I talk about having products that you can transfer.
Yep.
So if you've got a great big floral arch, yes, it's a big investment, but we can use that three times.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about you can use your bridal bouquets as your top table arrangements if you want to cut back on a little bit of money on that. So I will always give money saving hints and tips. I'm not there to be hard selling. I always say that. I'm not a hard seller. I'll always say, well, okay.
Have you thought about this? For instance?
You know, I'll say to couples, well, yes, you might like having your chairs dressed, but that's not a deal breaker. So if you've got money left a bit towards the end, you can add pieces on.
Yes.
So we go through everything, and then what we do is we give a detailed quote. We'll look at fresh, we'll look at silk, and there are big differences in price.
Yeah.
To be fair, and our silk collection, our artificial pieces, they might not be the right colour scheme for the couple, but will always help. So, for example, one of my top tips is if you've got 10 round tables and you really like the massive centerpieces, but they're the more expensive option, then you can have half of your tables with those and half with something more cost effective.
Yeah.
Still looks lovely, still has the wow factor. So kind of that's the way we do it, really. I like to see people. I always do the consultations myself, or they will see me at least once throughout the planning process. And we go through all of that. We look at, you know, can they get away with having fresh bouquets and artificial centerpieces?
Yeah.
Yes, they can.
Yeah,
of course they can. And you see it day in, day out. It works. It's
definitely.
fine.
Yeah.
And some of the pieces that we use are really, really realistic. To be fair,
some of
especially
them,
the arches.
Yeah.
So, you know, we would look at that and we'd say, some people worry about that. Well, okay, we'll give you a price for all fresh, and we'll give you a price. So we basically do a very bespoke quote for everybody.
Yeah.
But also, if they do come to me and say, well, I've only really want to spend X amount, I will then suggest ways in which we can try and help them fit within that. Or or I will say to them, realistically, you're going to have to rethink what you want, because you're not going to achieve what you want.
Yeah.
And it's important to be realistic, because fresh flowers aren't cheap.
No.
And, you know, there's a lot of our labour time. So, for example, we do something that we call a stay and wait fee, which is quite a new thing for us. So if you were getting married and having the wedding breakfast and the evening reception in the same venue, which I'd probably say 70% of people do now, don't they? Yeah. We do what we call a stay and wait fee. So we're with you in the morning, we set the room up for the ceremony, and then everything that you've got there, you will pay for us to stay and wait for you guys to get married. We go and have a brew or whatever, or you know, see what needs doing, and we wait for you to get married, and then we turn that room round, so all those props and all those products and all those flowers can then be used for your wedding breakfast.
Because it's really hard, because some venues won't do that, will
and
they?
We get that.
Yeah.
I think it's obscene of us to ask a venue to move a massive arch and 6 pieces down the aisle. I don't like asking venues to do that, and they've got enough to do.
They have got enough to, and also as well that accidents can happen. So say if you've got a great big vase,
I've had it happen where venues have moved things and they've rang me and I've said, I can't now come and help you because I'm on to the next job. So I do encourage that stay and wait fee, because I think you're utilising your decor for 2 things, for your ceremony and your wedding breakfast. It takes a lot of pressure off the venue. Plus, we will muck in and help the venue. You know, if they're moving chairs and we've done our bit, we'll say, guys, do you want us to, what can we do so that that's a smoother turnaround? And ultimately, it isn't really the venue's job to move our great big props and products, really. It's not anyone's job.
No.
And realistically, as a venue dresser, would you be insured if you moved products like that? Probably not. You know, if we're not setting them up.
So things like obviously
you've
insurance.
Got to think about things like that, really. So we do that.
But that's nice that you can say you can use those products 2-3 times.
Yeah, and you know, if you're spending money and having a massive floral arch, which is, you know, hundreds of pounds, you don't want that to be static and stay in one place all day.
No.
You want to use that throughout the day.
Yeah, there's one venue we go to, Mill Barnes, and they'll have a flower arch where they get married, and then they'll go to another room and then they'll go by the top table, and then even after that it might go up by the DJ or somewhere.
Stick a neon in it and it's a photo booth or something for night.
This is it. So, like I say, to maximise, when you're renting something like that, to maximise that for all day, that's really cost effective. But it's like when you go back to fresh flowers, I remember going, we saw you at Wen Fair and you were like talking about hydrangeas, and at that time you were saying it was like £5 a head just for one hydrangea. So how do you sort of quote for fresh then, if it's very...
Fresh is difficult to quote for, and there's no one size fit all. So every week I will get an email that says, how much are you for a bridal bouquet, bridesmaids, buttonholes and centerpieces? Yeah. It's impossible to price for that, because A, we need to know what time of year it is, what's going to go in it. I would say to couples, and I've said it to couples when they've been to see me before, ultimately, do you like my style? Because we've all got different styles as a florist, and I would say my typical go-to style is very loose, very floaty, lots of foliage, high impact flowers. I'm better at a bigger oversized bouquet, perhaps a bit more rustic, perhaps boho. I can do neat and tidy and all roses. But, you know, if someone was saying to me, Tam, you do you, mine would ultimately be like that, very loose, very flowy, and lots in it, if that makes sense, and big. So we'd have to sit down and work out what was going in. And like you said, it's hard to price for bridal bouquets because I'm pricing for things for a wedding that might be 2-3 years in advance. So I always say that I'm slightly different to, say, a florist shop that might be on the high street, if you like, because I do offer that consultation service. So I mean, florist shops might offer that. They might do that. But because most of my weddings, I'm usually doing the bouquets, the centerpieces and all the styling, it's important that all of those are singing off the same hymn sheet, that they're all the same, they're all matching. So I always will say to people, I might not be the most cost effective, but I'm selling a product, but you're also getting a service alongside it.
This is it. It's you.
You know, you're going to see me. I don't care if you change your mind on what's in that bouquet 10 times because you come through us through the planning process. But we shop around for a lot of our flowers. So we have 3 or 4 wholesalers that we buy from, and I don't box myself into buying from one. I will know what I want to buy and sometimes what grower I want to get that rose from. And that comes with, you build that wealth of experience through years, really. You know which grower you want to get that rose from because they're the best. So I would always shop around because I would say perhaps my designs are more, you know, they've got a lot of flowers in them. My bridal bouquets have got a lot of different content in them. You know, we want them to be nice and interesting in every turn and there to be lots of different content in them if that's what the couple want. But we shop around for our flowers and we use lots of different wholesalers. We use British flowers if we can.
Perfect.
There's an awful lot of lovely flower growers in the UK, and there's more and more popping up around Shropshire and Mid Wales.
See, that's brilliant because
which is lovely.
Yeah, because the sustainability side of it
and that's
now
really
as well.
important. And we will always. I mean, I did one wedding last year. The whole wedding came from flower growers that were no more than 10 miles away.
Wow.
So the footprint on that, you know, would have been next to nothing. I literally did everything, locally grown flowers. They hadn't, you know, they hadn't come far. And we will always try and do that. So if someone was saying to me, do you know what, Tam, I've got a wedding in a few weeks' time. I just want white flowers and some seasonal blooms. For that wedding, I will literally go and just buy from all the local growers.
Yeah.
I won't need to have flowers flown in.
No.
I won't need the air miles of that. So we do an awful lot that is eco, and it's eco because we've bought it locally and it doesn't have the air miles, but also that we try not to use foam as well. So if someone came to me and said, I want my whole wedding to be foam free, we could do that.
Yeah.
You know, the easy option is to get a brick of Oasis and use that.
Yeah,
but it is nice to be eco, and we will try and do that as much as we can. So a lot of our fresh arches are totally foam free. But yeah, we kind of shop around. We know what we want, and that is actually my favourite part of the job.
Yeah.
If you're coming to me and you're having your flowers, I absolutely love this. You probably think I'm a real saddo. I love sitting down, and I might spend 2-3 hours doing this, working out what I'm going to use. Do you know, if we haven't made like a recipe list of, if the couple aren't too worried and they're happy for me to use my own professional judgment as to what's going in the bouquets, which I would say 99% of couples do. They don't want to know what exactly is going in.
A lot of clients actually don't even know. Like, if I'm quite into my gardening. If you turn around and go, this is a peony, and this is something
some couples
different,
don't know. They might have. I always ask, is there something that's really important that you want in there? Is there a flower that your grandma loved? Do you know what I mean? There's usually something sentimental that they're wanting there. Peonies is usually the one, which gives us a headache because it's very seasonal. But I would...
How long do they last? Because obviously in the garden they don't last.
Yeah, peonies are difficult. So really I only will do peonies in the month of June for weddings. We can get them out of that season, but we sometimes pay the price for it. And they're very difficult. So they might come in and they're like bullets. We can never get them open in time. And there's lots of little tricks we can do to get them to open. and then they will bloom really quickly.
Yeah.
And I've had a few headaches where I've thought, oh my God, these have
go
blown really quickly.
Yeah.
We're going to need a backup plan here. So, but I would always explain that to a couple.
Yeah.
And I'd always say they're a difficult flower, so maybe we just have them in your bouquet, or and they can be expensive. So yeah, we would go through all that really, and we ask if there's something. But yeah, I absolutely love going onto my wholesalers and picking what I'm gonna put. You know, what works really well with that colour palette. I might have some swatches and some pictures that the couple have sent as inspo. And I'm a real saddo. I love that, sitting down for a couple of hours. Oh yeah, I fancy a bit of that in it. And
a bit like a cake maker, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
I
just
suppose.
I like these
yeah,
flavours
yeah.
and these flavours work and things like that.
And then when you see it and it comes from the wholesale and you're putting it all together and you've got it in your flower room and it's all in buckets and you look at your colour palette there and you think, yeah, I've nailed that, Tam.
Yeah.
Because they all look lovely together.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is half of a florist's job, really, is being able to visualise, I think, and
That
see.
creative, everything. It's like we're creative. We can see things like and we do things that some people. Well, I'll give an example. We sort of do a sniff pose, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" And it's actually, it's just when I don't say if the groom just goes in and we're all about memories as well. So if the groom goes in and like wants to get really quite close to the bride, we just sort of just smell her. And actually, it creates a memory. But on camera, you wouldn't know that is a sniff pose.
No, I wouldn't know that.
If any previous couples will listen to this, they
will know.
Exactly
they will know exactly. They'll go, and they'll start laughing. Actually,
I remember the sniff pose.
Yeah, and it creates a memory.
Yeah, of course it does.
And it's that creative things that we know what works on camera, but. It's the same with you.
Yeah.
You know what colour schemes and what flowers
and
work
what's
together.
available each time of year. Yeah. And I'd rather that. I'd rather couples say, do you know what, Tam? These are the colour palettes. This is my inspo pictures. This is my inspo board. You do you.
Yeah.
And they do have to have that bit of trust with their vendors, don't they?
Definitely.
That's why I see them.
I think this is like when we all through these podcasts, we are saying how important it is to build up a reputation, a personal relationship with your suppliers, because in theory, this is where the magic happens, and this is which gets that wedding planning to fruition, and everything goes perfect on the day.
Yeah.
So
you've got to
trusting us and going, actually, Tam, you do this day in, day out.
If
you know what works, this, like I say, this is our colour scheme, this is what we like, you can then go roll with that and go, actually, you've thought about this, and it's nice that
you've got to.
your personal judgment is taken on board.
Those personal relationships literally start from either the first message they message you on social media, or the first conversation you have, either if it's on the phone or a wedding fair. Because how a lot of couples we kind of get are through wedding fairs and
social media, word of mouth. People obviously.
What's the mainstream that you probably would say? Because obviously we know we both do a lot of wedding fairs together.
Yeah.
And there's every time if I would say if there's no one at our stand, I'm going to go for a bit of a walk around. There's always someone there talking to Tammy.
Yeah, so we're always there, aren't we? That's a tricky one, and actually we record that data now.
Yeah.
So we record every single inquiry that comes in. We've got a system that does that for us now, and it's really interesting tool. What I do is very pictorial. So I spend a lot of time on Instagram, and maybe 3-4 years ago I'd get a lot from Facebook, but that's totally changed now. I would say I get 50% from Instagram or Facebook. More Instagram because it's pictorial.
Instagram is so much more bigger than Facebook
what
now.
We do.
Obviously, you've made the transition more now to Instagram than Facebook.
I don't invest too much time on Facebook anymore.
No.
In fact, my Facebook has a message that says, "Can you contact us via email?"
Yeah.
Because we haven't got the time. We lose track on Instagram and Facebook messages.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're emailing, they're in that CRM, they're on our system, and we manage their expectations much better.
Yeah. And you're not lost. And I think we have inquiries, and this goes for every supplier we know. I'm a fool to myself. I will sit there and you're sitting at, I don't know, something's on TV and you think, oh, actually, I'm just going to look through Instagram and Facebook. Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll message them. I'll drop them a message.
Yeah, it's difficult.
And it's really hard for us as businesses that we try and answer really quite quickly, but it's easier to know through an email because you can track
Yes.
and so
And
things
the
aren't
office are
lost.
there.
Things aren't
Yeah.
lost. So when people go, oh God, I messaged them on Facebook, I've heard nothing back, and it's
Yeah.
really hard. That, like I said, when you got an email, you know, like we sort of check them twice
Yeah.
a day and go,
And
right,
you
okay,
can sit down and you've got the time to do it then.
yeah,
I think it feels quite hard to switch off at times.
Yeah.
It's
They-
really
Plus
hard.
couples
also,
email you quite late at night.
when it comes to this time of year, we are all out doing weddings.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
And it's a nightmare. I might do, like you say, open up a message on Instagram or Facebook, and I've gone then to do the wedding.
yeah,
I've
and I've
forgotten
forgotten
about
about
it.
it. Yeah. So I think for a really good top tip for couples that are planning, I always say when I speak to clients newly planning, make an email address
Yeah,
solely
it's a
just
good
for your
idea.
wedding. So it
Yeah.
may be Abby and Ben
Yes.
wedding
Yes.
at gmail.com
Yeah.
or something,
Good
and then
shout.
everything goes through that
Yeah,
email address.
definitely.
So you're not on spam.
The-
You're not
the things
anything
in the
spam
couple
and
knows everything is there in
It's
one
in
place.
there.
One place.
Yeah.
If they want to get hold of their photographer, there you go. Simple.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, florist, wedding
DJ,
dresser,
wedding
yeah,
venue,
everything's
they're all
there.
there.
Yeah.
And do it via email.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I know it's really hard. You know, email can sometimes seem
A
not
bit more,
personal.
yeah, and it's a bit more labour intensive, isn't it, than
It's-
just sending.
Yeah, a quick
Yeah.
WhatsApp message or something like that. But I think that's a really good tool that having
Yeah.
email and emailing your
Yeah.
vendors and things like that,
Someone
because
said something to me the other week and it really resonated with me and it stuck with me. I think it was actually a lady who owned a venue who I know quite well. She said to me she finds it hard to not be super responsive
yeah,
on Instagram. But what she did say, and I thought this is bang on, is she said, do you know what, Tam? I am just the same as everybody else. I quite like to just be sat on Instagram scrolling at night. But that doesn't mean that I am there in a business capacity
Yeah.
replying. I'm just being Joe Blogs like everyone else
Yeah.
is. And I am sitting there scrolling on the gram the same.
Yeah.
And she said, I want to just be sitting there scrolling. I don't want to be. So it is hard to...
yeah,
I deleted all my apps when I went on holiday so that I couldn't see anything
yes.
because I would have to respond to it. Something in my little brain.
I'm exactly
would
the
be,
same.
"Oh,
You know,
Tam, you need to reply to.
yeah.
You
You know,
know.
I find what I'm really I think I'm really good at messaging people on and replying to people. But it is that when do you turn off
Yes.
as a
And
supplier?
you've
you
got
have
to.
and I would
think
never
people would
ever
appreciate it as well.
yeah, and I would never ever turn around if clients have emailed me and gone, oh, I don't know, 9 o'clock at night, I forgot. Do I have to do this? What have I
Yes.
forgot this? Have
Yeah,
I forgot
Yeah.
that?
and you're sat there scrolling. Oh, message come through. No, I'm not going to reply. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
going to reply.
Yes, I'm going to reply.
Yeah, that would
because
be me.
this is it.
Totally all of us.
me.
It's everybody in the industry.
It
Yeah.
is. It's really hard.
And
It
also,
is
we live in
business
that
as well.
society. We live in a pull society now. Everything is available
20
with an answer straight away because of the internet. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your vendors are.
No.
Yeah.
And I think that's another important thing for suppliers is, good God, you know, you should expect a reply within a week off a
Oh, yeah.
supplier. But because they're online or because they've put a post up earlier on, that doesn't necessarily mean that they might reply to you.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, definitely.
we're always out and about,
Yeah.
aren't we? All of us, really,
Oh,
to
yeah.
be fair. I don't think there's many industry businesses in it
That are- no,
like
yeah,
based at a
yeah.
desk.
I mean, it's at 9 to 5 normally.
service.
You
You've
get an email the next
I
day.
mean, you've got your kids.
Yeah,
as well.
it's
you know,
very
you've got to
it's very
attend to them.
difficult to balance that.
It is really hard.
And ultimately, most of our work is Saturdays.
Yeah.
I struggle with consultations, if I'm honest, because
Trying to
everyone's
get it booked.
working in the week,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah.
A lot of my clients are teachers
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
so they've only got half terms. If I've got a half term off and I've got no weddings, I want that week away with the kids.
This is it. Yeah.
So
See,
that is difficult.
yeah, we've got a meeting on Thursday night, and we will always we don't have a life, me and James. We always sort of like a sad little laugh, you know.
No, yeah, you both.
But
like
we
that,
get
yeah.
people in the evenings because
Yeah.
I'd rather them come in the evening. They'll come round and have a
Yes.
coffee or
You've
have,
had
have
your
a glass
tea.
of wine
If we're
and-
sitting in Zoom calls as well.
and Zoom calls and things like that.
Yeah.
We can invite them in the evening, which means they're all day at work. They
Yes,
come
yeah,
down,
yeah,
come
yeah.
in the evening. So that's when we try and tend to do most
Yeah.
conversations, but it's really
See, I'm
hard
the
for you
opposite.
guys.
I don't do evenings.
No,
And I
it's really
really
hard.
struggle to fit people in.
yeah,
But I think if they want, I always say to couples this, and I can't do evenings because the kids have got 99 activities,
Mhm.
plus I do something for myself in the evening 4 nights a week.
Yep.
And I will never not do that,
No.
if that makes sense, because it's really important to have a work-life
Yeah,
balance, isn't it?
completely.
But I'll always find we'll always find a way. I'll say, well, okay, I have got this Tuesday night in 3 weeks' time. If you can hang on for me.
Yeah.
Or we do one Saturday a month, and that fills.
Yeah. So when do then clients really, so they've got venue, they've thought about colour schemes, they're now thinking, right, venue dressing, flowers, I need to get them sorted. How soon do you think they should be getting you booked in?
I always think if the florist that they want to use is their wedding date is open and their florists are taking bookings for that year. So for example, I'm not taking 2025 yet. I'll open 2025 in a few months' time.
Okay.
So I always think sooner the better. If you want those key suppliers, I had a lady a few months ago who moved her wedding date because we weren't available, and I was amazed.
Yeah.
It's only ever happened once before, but that was someone I knew. But this lady said, I cannot get married unless we can use you to do the church and
That's brilliant.
which is lovely. It's really nice feeling, isn't it? Yeah, felt really really chuffed with that. But I don't think you're never too soon. We send out, like I said, a bit of a pre-questionnaire to make sure they're ready to see us first.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we could sit in my showroom going around in circles for hours.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you need to know.
Yes.
You don't need to know how much of a budget, I don't think. Some people might disagree with me on that, but my business model is you don't need to know how much you need to spend or how much of a budget. But I think 1 or 2 years before I'm seeing people now for 2024, I'll start to see people for 2025 now.
Yeah.
So what's that, 2-3 years in advance? Because
I think that what you said was total key. If you find a supplier that you definitely love, you love the look at their photography or their videography or their florist, or they've got centerpieces that you think, I love those. Yeah. And you find those specific vendors, it is the earlier you book, the more likely you are then to secure those people.
I think different businesses are different. So for you can only do one wedding a day.
I can only do one wedding.
Whereas I can do 10.
Yes.
If I know I can get the team and I can execute them properly.
Yeah.
I can do as many as I physically can fit in that day, because a lot of venues will give us access a few days before, you see. Yeah. So venues where we know we can do that, we're okay. But that doesn't mean that products are available.
No.
Do you know what I mean? If you want those nice chairs, they might be booked out 3 years in advance.
Yeah.
So you're right. And like a cake maker can probably only do 1 or 2 weddings a day. Yeah. Because it's labour intensive and you've got the delivery of it.
Yeah.
So I always think if you want those suppliers, a lot of suppliers will just do a small deposit as well. So reach out to those suppliers, isn't it? And just say, it might be for a cake maker. You might be able to reach out or to a stationery lady and say, we know we want to use you, but we're not too sure. So we do something like that. If the couples aren't quite ready to see us, and they know they want to use us, but they haven't got what they want,
details or anything like that, but they want to secure you for your date, so you do it's a small booking.
We do just a holding deposit, and then we say we will work with you. Your date saved. Yeah. And then you'll come in for a consultation and you'll pay a proper deposit once we've got you a rough quote. Yeah. And I'm sure most suppliers would do something like that, the nitty-gritty details. Yeah. Some might do that, I don't know, but I always think it's always worth reaching out to your suppliers, isn't it?
First of all, for your date.
Is my date available? What would my deposit be? And
then
meet
go
them
through,
face to face. Do you like them? A lot of people's socials will be full of non-real work. We see this a lot. Have they done many weddings? I know we've all got to start somewhere, but is their feed full of inspirational images off Pinterest? I see an awful lot of that in my field. Yeah. An awful lot of people. Have they got the props and the products that they're telling you that they've got? Yeah. And I had a lady last year who moved her whole booking to us, because she's just said to me, Tam, I'm just not feeling this other company. I'm just not feeling it. They're just making me nervous. And there's a lot of red flags.
And weddings are a huge amount of money as well, isn't it? So, regardless, a £3,000 wedding is a huge amount of money for that person.
In perspective.
£30,000. that's a lot of money for that
yeah.
person. So when you are spending a lot of money, you've got to make sure your suppliers are exactly who they say they are,
and they're on
what they
board
can
with.
do,
Make sure
what
they're
they say they
legit
can
as
do.
well.
Yeah.
There's so many horror stories you've
I've
had.
failed out
yeah.
so many couples
People.
We have.
where they've been scammed, and in
We
fact,
had
I
one
had a
last
guy
year.
the other week book
Yeah.
me, and he'd been scammed, and someone had took his full money for venue dressing, which was a lot of money,
Yeah.
and then went bust the next day. So
And we had one last year. I was filming for the couple, and their photographer, they booked them down from way down south. I looked at it and I thought, I don't think that's
For a
legit.
little silly fee, it was I don't know, £500-600, something like that.
But bear in mind, they've got to travel.
And they're
Yeah.
traveling,
hours,
yeah,
but then
up-
you're not going
up
to travel.
here.
You're going to stay
No.
overnight. You're not going to
of
travel
course
down.
you're not gonna. Yeah.
I had a gut feeling that it was wrong. Was it 3 days before the wedding? Yeah, sorry, something's happened. But lucky enough,
Yeah, there's a lot of it
Lucky
goes
enough.
on.
Free.
And it's
Dad was on hand, so my dad obviously
was able to do
this
it. Yeah,
family company. Dad was able to come along and help out and do the photos, and they loved them.
that's good.
So
Yeah,
It's hard though, isn't
it
it?
is. It is.
You've
really
got to
hard.
trust your gut with things like that, I
Yes.
think, and it's a bit of being a bit savvy, because if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
Sometimes if they're asking for all the money up front,
Yep.
it's usually a bit of a red flag. I was going to say deposits, but we do ask for quite a big deposit, and I think that's important because they're securing a service. But yeah, usually if it's too good to be true, it sometimes is. And meet with your vendors, isn't it? Like
definitely.
we said.
having meetings, I've always said, as long as you have meetings with them, you know
Even
everything's
if
going
it's
to
a
go
Zoom
right.
call for half an hour.
Yeah.
Oh
You
my God.
will
Your initial
know
one would be
straight
good.
away,
Yeah.
won't you?
Yeah.
Whether you gel with that person, are you confident that they're going to execute what they're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
I saw a bride a few weeks ago who showed me a bouquet of flowers that was actually my work, and it was being passed off as another florist's work.
No.
And I said, "You do know that that's my photo?" And they're like, "No, it's theirs. This is their work." And I said, "No.
You
Here
know
it
your
is.
work. You know
Here it
your
is.
work.
It's on my Instagram, and it's this and this wedding." And they went white from head to toe. And they said they're saying that this is their work, and I said, "No, that's my work."
So again, this is it. It's like
Trusting, isn't it?
yeah. So when you say this is, you can show them all your work, what you've
Yes.
done, and you
Yeah.
know every
Yeah.
single bride's bouquet, everything like that. It's the same with us.
Yeah,
that
you know that was your image.
Yes,
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
But it's knowing that, like, say, you can execute it. You know that you can do that thing.
Yeah. And everybody's style's different. Your
Yes.
photography styles are all different. And
Yes.
I always say that, if someone asks me, "Oh, who would you recommend for photography, videography?"
Yeah.
It's a very difficult question to ask another vendor, because what I might like, they might not like.
No. Yeah.
So what I say is, these are the people I work with who I love, that I like. Family-run businesses.
Yeah.
I always say, you guys, son does videography great.
Yeah.
You it's all in one or whatever.
Been in
But
the
I
industry
always-
this long and everything like that. So the ones that have come and gone.
Yeah, that's
and the ones
right.
that have stayed in the industry.
Yeah,
that
that's right.
have got some backing in that industry
And I
as
always
well.
say, go and do your research, see who
Yeah.
you like. I don't know what they really want to spend on a cake. I don't know what they might think they want to spend on photography. And also, couples might sometimes say, "Oh, it was that much for a wedding cake," and I sort of sometimes will say, "Well, that's what they are."
Yeah.
But that's because no one knows what they're going to be spending on these
people who
things. There's not
plan
enough.
weddings, they don't know how much weddings cost.
No, that's right.
And in recent years, we've been having to put prices up
Yeah,
for
but,
ourselves because the
ultimately
cost of living's been going
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, we are all
Energy
ultimately.
crisis and things like that.
We're not all doing it as a hobby.
No,
We are running a
This
business
is our
and
job.
keeping
It's our
roofs
job.
over our heads and keeping our families.
Yeah, we are people as well.
And I would say I'm here not to rinse people off, is my phrase. It's my Welsh phrase, rinse people. But ultimately you are running a business, and there are overheads with that, not there, as well?
And you're paying for expertise as well.
Yeah, of course you are.
This is the thing.
The
So
experience
I think
people have.
When your equipment,
when clients are looking about how much, like you say, but like don't have a budget in your head. Obviously, you can have a sort of budget, but it's where you want to spend that budget.
and it's spending your money sensibly. I always say, I know for me, the best investment on my day when I look back was my video.
Yeah.
And I always say that to couples. My little thing I say to couples is, I always say this, beg, steal or borrow to find the money for a video, because it captures things in a totally different way. Like, I saw my husband getting ready in the morning. I would never have seen that.
No.
I'm able to hear people's voices that are no longer with us anymore, and like see people. So, you know, people spend their money in different ways. And
So
and I always say that, have an overall budget, but I don't want to spend more than this.
Where you want to spend that budget will be different to every client.
And be sensible, isn't it? And do I realistically need those sashes on that chair that looks beautiful anyway? Or could I use that more towards having my video? Or could I use that? You know, it's being sensible, isn't it? And you can add things on at a later date, can't you?
If say you got money that have come in, or someone said, "Oh, actually, I'd like to give you a wedding present now." And here's some
people
cash.
do that.
Yeah, it is. But it's every wedding's different. Like you say, you have a budget. You will then filter that budget where you think
where your
you
money's
would want
best spent.
that money to be spent.
And I think it's things that you're going to keep. It's your photos, your videos. I will always say flowers, but that's me because of what I do.
It's exactly what I say for video, what you say for and what say a cake maker would say.
Exactly.
I know it sounds.
I think we're dropping a few hints of what our next podcast is going
to be. Yeah. But it is for me as a photographer. I love getting all those details that people put their time and energy in making.
Because couples might have made bits.
This is it. Yeah. So I love how. Especially like with your flowers, that when you deliver in the morning and they've got little drops of water on and things like that, or you're putting a ring in the bouquet,
or nice detailed shots,
all the little details that are soon forgotten. But like you say, we said about the money saving tips, like. I've always turned around and having a huge centerpiece on your top table. When you've got 5 bridesmaids and you've got 5 vases, and you can put those bouquets, which then will prolong the life of those bouquets, because the most times we see bouquets just thrown somewhere.
Yeah, they're just sat, aren't they?
They're sat out
on the window,
water,
on the window somewhere.
in a buggy, or on a table, or that you could prolong the life of those, use them as a centerpiece, and then that will save a couple
a little bit of money. And that's money that they could spend somewhere else. We chatted before about favours. Just because they're traditional, can you save yourself a couple of £100 by having favours? Will anyone notice that you've not done favours? Absolutely not.
No.
You know, will they remember the great food? Do you know? Yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
You know, so spend the money on that. It's you know, prioritising, isn't it, really?
Again, it's memories as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the day is all about.
Yeah.
But we kind of like to end the podcast, even though you've given quite a few amazing tips already. What would be your kind of main advice to a couple who are getting or looking to get their venue dressed in florist? What would be the main piece of advice you would give to them?
I think 100% meet in person, because there's no one size fits all. If you're reaching out to a florist or a venue dresser and they say it's going to be X, Y, and Z and it's £500 or whatever, I don't know if they would have understood your expectations and vision without seeing you. I probably have done weddings where I've never met the couple, but that would just be like a chair cover and a sash, or they've hired chairs or whatever. But I think meet in person. Do you feel they get your vision?
Yeah.
And like I said, I always know as soon as they get up and leave my showroom, I will know if they're going to book me or not. And I'm always right, because you've gelled with that couple or you haven't.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You can't win them all, can you?
No.
And that's fine.
This is it.
You can't win them all. You know, you can't lose sleep over it as a vendor. If they don't book you, that's fine. You move on.
Yeah, because I would rather than find the right supply for them.
Yeah.
You know, we have people that we speak to and they love our work, but we may not be a right style for them. They might look for something a bit more documentary, or something a little bit different, what probably we don't do.
Yes.
And I'd rather then go, actually, if that's what you want, we're not that.
Go with it.
But go with X, Y, and Z, because I know that's what they are. That's the style I like.
I don't execute that. That's not my sort of style.
No.
I can do it, but realistically, X, Y, and Z are better at doing that type of
Yes.
style than me.
Yes.
So maybe reach out to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to meet with your vendors, and just alongside that is it's the budget thing. You hear it all the time, don't you?
Mhm.
And I see a lot of people in my industry asking, what are you wanting to spend? Couples don't know that.
No.
I think you're better off having a quote, which is how I do it, and I've done it for 20 years. Right, have your wish list. What would you really like?
Yeah.
Get everything on it.
Yeah.
Then you can look at that and you can be like, all right, okay, that's a bit more than what I was thinking. Or, okay, that's what it's going to cost to have that.
Yes.
Or we can take X, Y, and Z off because Tammy's recommended that you don't necessarily need that.
Yeah.
And then it'll be that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think they're kind of like my 2 top tips. Sorry, because I like to
No,
talk a
that's
lot.
perfect.
I think it's
People
absolutely
listening have got an extra
But
little bit
you
of
see
advice as
these
well.
guides, don't you? Wedding
Yes.
guides. You need to keep 10% for your wedding flowers. That's a load of nonsense because some guy wrote that 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And people have shared that for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
And when to book things as well.
Yeah,
You know,
things
you
have
see
changed.
books.
Do it at your own pace. Do
This is
you?
it. Yeah, this is it. I think people will see guys, especially in wedding magazines, this is when you
Yes.
should book the X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds funny, they turn around and say, 12 months you should be booking your photographer. Well,
No,
Not
no,
a
no.
chance.
not a chance.
I think the
not a
wedding
chance
industry's
sometimes.
changed. You will have seen it because
Yes,
you've
completely.
been here as long as I have.
Yeah.
But years ago, weddings, when I started 16 years ago, weddings were Saturdays and weddings were in a church and then a ceremony afterwards. But because weddings are now all year round and every day of the week,
Mhm.
things have changed. So a lot of those guides, I think you might as well use as firewood because
Yeah.
things have changed.
Yeah.
It's hard to give tips though, isn't it? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to give a tips to people who kind of don't really know
Yeah.
how to get into it. But it's been amazing having you on.
Thank you.
If people listening and watching, well, especially for people watching, you can see Henry's actually just arrived back from the groomers.
Yeah.
Aw.
Anyone watching
This
on
is
YouTube, he's come back and
Dogs
dented
of
it up.
YouTubes.
But yeah,
Thank you so
No, you're
much.
welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been
yeah.
good.
Check out Tammy TMS Events on Instagram,
Yeah,
We'll
all
link
Facebook.
those things
All
all
be
those
linked.
that we have to update daily.
Yeah, all be linked. And our next wedding, we just found out is
Yeah, together in 2
You're
weeks.
you're working together in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome.
Thank you for listening to the JOL Wedding Podcast. Share this podcast with anyone you know who is on the journey of planning a wedding. Check out other episodes of this podcast as well as links to our social media platforms at the JOL Wedding Podcast.